I was thinking like that from a scale from 1 to 10. How difficult is to implement that green transition in such a huge and busy and complex city like Budapest?
Like 9. It's difficult because there's a lot of ambition. That's important from the political, from the decision makers. Budapest elected progressive mayors, so there's a big ambition. We have all the expertise, and that is important. So we created good plans in transforming our transport system, in biodiversity, in transforming the gray, green, blue infrastructure, in sustainable energy and climate action plans. So we have the expertise, we have the ambition, but a lot of change is going on. The European goals are ambitious. Some say not ambitious enough, so a lot of people say not ambitious. They are always pushing for more ambitious goals on reduction in emissions and measures. On the other hand, you need to have your citizens behind you, because we say the cities implement like 70% or sometimes 90% of the goals, but in the end it's the citizens who actually have to recycle their waste and change their ways of living, how they use their cities, how they transport, to leave their cars and change to bikes, go to public transport, to save water, to use green spaces differently, to be more conscious in their energy consumption, to be more conscious in their food consumption. We are expecting a lot from our citizens, a lot of change in a lot of fields in a very short time.
And how do you cope with that? Because that leads me to the next question. How do you connect this ambition with the reality? And you talked about the citizens. Who is the most involved in your campaigns, and who is the most, like this when it comes to changes?
When it comes to climate issues and responsibility, it's always more women who I find in cities. We try to build bridges. Not easy, because there are some examples, but not rooted in Hungary well. This direct channeling of citizens, because we are used to a world where there's always a mediator. It's the same as the media. Earlier, it was always talking to journalists and journalists talking to people. Now it's social media. Politicians are talking directly to their citizens. It has advantages and disadvantages. But we use social media. We try to connect directly with our citizens. But when it comes to, it's educating citizens, it's a bad term, but this is what we use. People get fed up after a time. So what we see is that pacing these changes and having enough stakeholders in, and having strategic partners with NGOs, with groups of people that can push the change, that's very important. When it comes to climate change goals, a lot of people challenge that it's not the personal decision. So it's not upon the citizen if he eats less meat or more meat, or use less water or more water. It's the big industry, the big companies, and big legislation. What I see is that every level has its role. Of course, there has to be a European framework, but it's already done. If we look at the waste measurements on plastic, on the banning of single-use plastic, on changing what kind of plastic can we make so it can be recyclable. When it comes to goals on strict goals on landfilling, we have to decrease landfilling of waste under 10%. So what I see is we have the European framework. We need a national legislational framework, and we need a national communication and engagement. You need the cities level, but what I always say is that if you don't get people in, changing something, a little thing, in the way they use water, in the way they use electricity, in what they buy, where they buy it from. You don't have to change everything at the same time. But if you have somebody engaged already, put in some energy, some effort, some mind, they will vote for politicians that will keep up this track and will stay on this track. Because if they say that I already done my share and I'm engaged, then maybe we can stay on this track, because it's not an easy way. So we understand politicians, decision makers, hopefully most of us understand the challenge, but it's really hard to put it down into bites that can be digestible for us citizens.
And I was thinking what you were saying downstairs, and it's very true, that we have some great European ambition at the European level, but we are different countries, different regions, and with different base. And I was thinking about the Central and especially Eastern Europe, where we both come from, which are totally different as education and everything, and as behavior from the Western countries. Can you make a comparison between the two parts of them? Because definitely in the western part of Europe things go better and better, especially because citizens already have education related to this.
Let's see, yes, like recycling is not a new thing for a Swedish citizen. It's there in their life for a long time. This is what they see in their environment, and it's now like an everyday thing with a very high recycling rate. But let's see another country where, like in Budapest or like Hungary, where we have a 50% landfilling still. So we landfill most of our waste. And to start to move from this point to a very high recycling rate, it's not an easy, and it's not always quite obvious how you can do it. What I see is on the local level is that if a local authority is given to a city so it can make its own decision on pricing, on waste management, and have its own freedom in its budget, then it can do a lot. And this transition period can be much shorter. When it's centralized and people are not engaged and not enthusiastic, it's just a must, it's just a legislation, then cities and countries can be stuck. And I see this being stuck in waste issues in Hungary, a reality, because all power went to the government. We introduced a recycling bin to every household, so there is a recycling bin, so everybody can do recycling at home, and there's no progress. Because
it's for free, you said.
And it's for free. And there's no progress. And what I see is that thinking of the government is in the direction of incineration. Okay, then we won't landfill, then we will incinerate. But it's not the spirit of circular economy, because what we are looking at is producing less waste. So that's priority number one, having less waste. And then reuse, repair, recycle, use it as a material, not burn it and put it away somewhere. When you engage citizens, when you give responsibilities, and this is also about democracy, local democracies, responsibilities, you want to give responsibility, because the other way is that I am the leader, I will take care. It's not your job. And we see that it doesn't go anywhere. What we see is that if we teach and we engage people in like recycling and in making smarter decisions in shopping and to compost and to keep in mind their consumption and purchases, it has a multiplicator effect on a lot of other fields. Then they will be more conscious on energy, they will be more conscious on water, they become more conscious on traveling methods. So putting responsibilities in a digestible way, it's very important. But for that, you need to believe in local authority. You need to believe in the authority of citizens, and this is the base of democracy.
You've implemented already a lot of great ideas as far as I listened to you. Which was the most challenging idea that you had to put in practice, and you did it?
It's the bicycle lanes. We introduced, during the COVID crisis, new bicycle lanes in downtown where the traffic is the highest. And that is causing a lot of conflicts. So it's a day-to-day conflict, and we've been challenged to eradicate it, to stop it. We are challenged by it like every day, but we are not.
Who makes this conflict? The drivers, I suppose, or not only?
It's mainly government driven, but of course there's a lot of receiving, because what happened is that already for a long time we've been, not just this leadership of Budapest, but the Sustainable Urban Mobility Program is showing on the same direction in the modal split, to have less people in cars and have more people on walking and using public transport and electromobility and biking. That is the direction. So we've been doing a lot of restrictions, but it's not restrictions. We've been supporting public transport and supporting walking cities. What happened is during the COVID crisis is that a lot of people were afraid of public transport. We didn't know how the COVID is spreading. It's not a Hungarian thing. It was all over Europe. We were looking at each other's mayors, deputy mayors, that what is happening, and people got afraid of public transport, being closed space, and didn't know about the spreading. So we lost a lot of people from public transport, and the number of cars increased in the city. So already there was a conflict with having more cars than space in the city for cars, and we don't want to open new space for cars, because that is not the public space we want to build in our cities. We want public spaces that connect citizens and not divide them. So having more cars and also taking away space from the cars for bikers, that is causing a day-to-day conflict.
Is Budapest already a smart city?
Not smart enough. We're looking at all of the innovation. We have our own innovations. So we're keeping up with the European cities. We do the same as the other cities, but we have our own innovation, and it's connected to biodiversity, because we have this smart car that goes around in the city, like the Google car, and we get a lot of data from what is built in the city, and we used it only for roads and buildings before, to have this three-dimension map of the city. But now there is artificial intelligence that we cooperated and we use now, put together with this software, which recognizes the trees, and not just that it is a tree, but which kind of tree and what value does it have. So we will have a tree cataster, a list of trees and species and age and value, and I'm really proud of that.
Excellent. One more question and we'll be over. I understand that you're going to attend the conference in Glasgow, and I was wondering, what do you expect on the reality level, not on the discussion level? What is going to happen after this conference in Glasgow?
If cities are there at the table, they can bring a lot of realities. And I think this is our role, to bring, because we can actually tell cities that what we can implement, how can we implement it better, and what are the obstacles. So having cities there at the table in decision-making position, that's crucial in fulfilling climate goals.